Good morning, everybody. What you're hearing is an incredible rediscovery of mine that the universe has spoke through me. What you're hearing is the birds broadcasting the electron-driven chorus of the sun that broadcasts a frequency that helps the plant cells, like stomata, open up within the plant cells of nature, of trees, of plants, that helps them start growing when the sun rises. This is why they start broadcasting their electron-driven chorus an hour before dawn, because they're already sensing and feeling the vibrations of the chirping electrons as they enter into our magnetosphere, and they carry the information that's coming from the sun. The sun is sending light coming in the form of electrons traveling within the plasma, coming from in the solar wind and everything else. And that information is directly related to creating life, sustaining life, evolving life, and even dissolution of life and rebirth of life. It's all the information that helps plants and all creatures grow and flourish and be alive on the planet. And the magnetosphere filters this information. And there's certain spots on the planet that have openings and doorways. So the birds, they hear or sense or feel in the core of their instinctual creational reason for being here, right? Birds are feeling the vibrations of the chirping of the electrons, the electron-driven chorus within the plasma waves of the magnetosphere around Earth. Those electrons make the chirps that the birds make. The birds are mimicking these sounds, and these sounds broadcast the frequency to help plants in all nature open up and grow with the horizon, the flash of the light coming over the horizon, right? This is the electron-driven chorus they talk about in plasma physics and in mythology, right? Mythology, all cultures have lore of the woodpecker, of the cuckoo bird, of the hoopoo bird, and various other cosmic birds that have to do with broadcasting the music of the sun. They're just using the scientific terminology. They're using a very spiritual terminology. And this is the same woodpecker used by Zeus and Hera, the cuckoo bird of Kalanish, the lore of Kalanish, right? It's my rediscovery of the true translation of this, right? One of the biggest lores of the Kalanish stone circles in Scotland is that on midsummer night, on midsummer, right, the longest day of the year, that the Shining One will walk up the avenue of stones, heralded by the cuckoo's call. Wow, what an incredible... Now all people have tried to translate this. All people have tried to translate this, and they talk about how the Anunnaki is the Shining One. Yeah, the Anunnaki stems from the Vedas. One of the 5 ancient Vedic people are the Anus, right? And they carry the knowledge of the Asura and the Devas, the Shining Ones, right? But when they're talking about the Shining One in this lore about the cuckoo's call, they're talking about the sun. The Shining One that's walking up the avenue of stones is the sun's rays, and it's heralded by the cuckoo's call. Now, Kalanish, Stone Circle, and Standing Stones, Kalanish is a spot where auroras are seen through certain times of the year, right? So obviously this is a spot where the electron-driven chorus is heard, right, by those that can instinctually sense it, right? So electron-driven chorus that the sun is creating this music, right? That's in the magnetosphere around Earth. Well, above Kalanish is a spot where there's a breakthrough in the magnetosphere, a doorway that's communicating directly with these standing stones of granite, where the ancient quartz is in the granite is absorbing this information and recording it. And they're in a certain archaeoastronomy alignment. So this spot is a doorway for broadcasting information coming directly from the sun. And it's what an incredible way of describing it. As the Shining One, Midsummer Night, walks up the avenue of stone, he's heralded by the cuckoo's call. Because the sound of the electrons, as it passes through our magnetosphere above Kalanish, it makes the sound of the cuckoo. The same chirps heard in the cuckoo, the same song of the cuckoo is the same song of the electron-driven chorus within the plasma waves around Earth. And it's coming directly from information from the sun. This is why when you have certain Greek poems and stories like Nephalakagia, where they hire these cosmic birds to build a cosmic enclosure around Earth to keep out all sorts of cosmic harm that would cause famine to the and harms to the crops and storms and death upon the planet. So they hire these older gods, Zeus and all these other gods, they hire these cosmic birds to build this enclosure around Earth to protect Earth from famine and destruction. So they're talking about the magnetosphere, this enclosure. And what cosmic birds do they hire to do this? They hire the woodpecker, the cuckoo, and the hoopoe bird. All the same birds that make the same exact sounds and frequencies of the electron-driven chorus within the plasma waves around Earth, which is information coming directly from the sun. It's just incredible, incredible information. You guys hit that thumbs up because you can't find this anywhere else where you're finding a rediscovery of the origins. Nowhere else are you going to hear where what the Ankh really means. The coronal mass ejection loop, solar prominence loop of the sun. I mean, obviously, it's so obvious. I mean, look at murals of Akhenaten. You know, during the later 18th dynasty, that bloodline accessed cosmic wisdom. Ancient knowledge was re-emerged, reawakened. Many years, certain symbols were used in the wrong aspect by certain solar dynasties. Amenhotep III, Akhenaten's father, reawakened the knowledge. You guys can hear the birds broadcasting that electron chorus. Feds are in the trees. Yeah, and go look up some of the murals from the 18th dynasty with Akhenaten, who is the son of Amenhotep III. Akhenaten changed his name to Akhenaten You can also pronounce it ku in Natin. Ak and ku are the same word. They mean intelligence, but more specifically, intelligence of the sun. But it means the intelligence of the rays of the sun, is what Akhenaten's name really means. So he changed his name from Amenhotep III to Akhenaten, which literally means, if you translate it the correct way, it's the intelligence of the rays of the sun. He's directly talking about the plasma coming from the sun, and it comes within Ankh loops, coronal loops, twisting magnetic field lines that form loops that look exactly like the Ankh. And the Ankh is a solar symbol. It's the breath of life. Sun is life. It's the breath of the sun. It's the sun breathing these loops. And the snakes that you see, the asp, right? That is literally how the electricity, the electrons move through the plasma waves. They move like dolphins, like snakes moving through the waters, the plasma waters. And there's a duality to this symbol. Also symbolizes its connection to the pineal gland. Because we're literally a microcosm of the sun, of a star. Our neural network is the same neural network of the star systems. When you see a tree like this, it's the dendrites of Earth, right? The dendrites, the neural network in our brain, is just like the trees. You know, this is the neural network of Earth, these trees. The trees, the neural network is sending out to the sun, I need to grow, I need to flourish, I need to blossom. And then the sun hears those emanations and vibrations from the tree, and it sends down, it absorbs it, alters it by its own energy, and then sends down those emanations to the tree to help the tree grow and flourish. Those emanations come in the form of electrons, and as those electrons come into our magnetosphere, they make a chorus that are birds chirping, and the birds broadcast those chorus. That's their place in nature. Like the goose that you hear here, right? Ooh, it just made that noise. You see the geese flying by? That's used, that's the sacred honker in Egypt. It's for souls to cross over. It's a solar goose because a goose makes that same sound as the electron chorus in the plasma waves. And this is actually very groundbreaking, everybody. Very groundbreaking information. And any plasma physicist or mythology person, they would agree with me in this conversation once they're explained and it's shown to them. They would have an epiphany. This is why when I was given the time of day by certain people, they end up becoming very close personal friends with me. Like even Professor Chandra Wickraman, who is one of the world's most famous living astronomers, and he actually coined the term astrobiology, him and his mentor, the late Sir Fred Hoyle. And because of my ancestry, I was actually able to meet and talk to Professor Chandra at first. And then I started to share some of my work and research with him, and he was really shocked. And we've been doing, you know, work together for years now. We've gone on shows together. We've done interviews together. Um, and he's in his mid 80s. And Robert Temple is a famous author. He's been impressed with my work, and I think it sparked some ideas with him, and he wrote a book about plasma this year. A lot of people out there have been influenced by some of my work that you guys would be surprised with, because I know I come across as young, and I look young, and I talk young, but you know, I'll be 46 years old in a month. I ain't that young, and I have a lot of life experience. It's just that I come across, I think, as young, as sometimes people misjudge that and don't think I might not have some wisdom with me. I'm not saying I have the answers, but after decades of not just studying the ancient writings, going through life experiences, the life experiences start to reveal the answers that you're studying. And I realized the reason why I was studying so hard was because of my experiences, my spiritual experiences that I had. And I was looking for answers. But you're not going to get the answers through studying alone, right? They're just going to give you facts when you're studying, or put you, give you some clues. Through living your life, the life reveals the answers, right? The people that you meet, the people that you come across, how you interact with them, the spiritual signs all around you at every given time. You start to either notice them or not notice them as you go through life experiences. And if you start to pick up on them, you start to realize the universe is giving you the answers you've been looking for. But you have to live your life. You can't just get involved with studying only. Your life experiences out there and the way you conduct yourself will lead you on the path of the answers. But you can't just live in a box of work and home, right? Because that's not that much life experience. That's just the experience of following rules. You hear the woodpecker? The woodpecker has come in the background. So we got the Electron German chorus right here. There's the woodpecker. Well, the woodpecker, that's the knocking where he's banging his beak on the wood. It's the actual call of the woodpecker that sounds like the electron-driven chorus, and the hoopoo bird and the cuckoo and the starling and all these other ones, the goose. It's really incredible. And I actually am the first one to rediscover this in our times. People have been arguing over what certain mythologies mean, what the Ankh symbol means, which is actually the Pasha of Hindu. That's what I first was shown to it, because I have been telepathically, through my creativity, been basically receiving information from the sun without being able to describe it in the scientific way that I just described it to you about the plasma and the electrons and all of that. I had to go through 5 or 6 years. I'm basically at a senior undergraduate level in plasma physics, and I had to go through all of that to give the terminology to be able to write the book that I'm doing. I have a series of 9 books going to be published by myself on Amazon. I'm already doing the book 1, and it's I had to restart it so I can also not just sound like a crazy person and have the scientific evidence, right? So um, it's talked about in all mythologies. It's talked about. It's incredible, right? It really is. But the Pasha of Hindus, see, I was getting this telepathically for years. So I'm not just a songwriter and a musician. I'm sort of like a Renaissance man. I draw, I sketch, I write songs, I play guitar, I write poems. I'm a metal worker. My I'm named after my great grandfather and my father, but my great grandfather was a master blacksmith. I never got to meet him, but it's like in my DNA. I sort of inherited it, and um, a lot of metalworking in my family. So I do metalworking and geology and work with stones, crystal skull readings. There's like a whole bunch of stuff that I do creatively, and through my creativity is where I get my telepathic messages. So when I'm working with my crystal skulls, I'll get connections telepathically to what I'm focusing on, right? And the crystal skulls help with the memory of the planet, especially when you carve them to some specific shapes, like a sentient human's brain, right? So I started years before I figured out what the actual symbol meant and was shown. How it was shown to me was at the megalithic site, finally. But for years, I was drawing it in my sketches. I have the proof. I have notebooks going back to the late 90s, right? Even I was doing it way before that. Like, I graduated high school in 95, 96. But the June 96 is when I graduated. Um, I was already drawing it in high school. So for years, I was drawing, and I could show you guys the notebooks. I post some of them on like Facebook and Patreon and stuff like that. For years, I was drawing in various ways. I would do when I started doodling or sketching, and it would come just out of nowhere. Like, I would just be in class at first, and when you just start doodling something because you're bored, that's when things start just instinctually coming to you from the cosmos. It's that, these thoughts, they're not just generated from anywhere. This is your higher self connection, your creativity, your free will, your free will frequency, right? This is where your creativity stems from. It's your cosmic connection, right? So when I started just sketching out of nowhere, I was sketching the Ankh in various forms. And I would always sketch the Ankh with these spiraling loops in the inside of the Ankh loop, all the way around. And inside the spiraling loop, sometimes I would even make faces and things like that. And then I would draw like the trunk of the Ankh, sometimes even like as a growing tree. And the arms of the Ankh, I would make at the end like a funnel, and sometimes even a hand growing out of it or a tree growing out of it. But it would be like a swirling funnel of water inside the arm of the Ankh. Each one at the end of the arm of the Ankh would almost be like a sleeve of a shirt, but more like a torus spinning at the end, like a funnel, like a cone. And I was drawing that for years, and then I would draw the sun behind it, and the Ankh would be inside the sun. And then sometimes I would have like caterpillars crawling on the Ankh, and then I would do all variations of that scene all the time for years. And then I would sometimes put the Eye of Ra, the Eye of Horus, inside the Ankh loop or something like that. I got tattoos of it, that eye of the eye on the back of my neck. You know, I started doing it for decades, and then through my life experiences and going to a red granite megalithic dolmen. And a red granite has archaeoastronomy alignment to the sun on winter solstice day. The sun is directly aligned as the sun rises in the morning. It sits on top of the dolmen like a friggin' tabletop. And as it moves throughout the day, it just hangs over the dolmen aligned. I have pictures of it. You guys have seen it. The balanced rock. So at that spot on winter solstice, I had my crystal skull underneath of it in the bowl, in the ancient charging bowl that's beneath the dolmen. And as it was aligned with the sun, I went beneath, picked up my crystal skull. I was underneath the dolmen, laying underneath there with my skull. I put my skull to my pineal gland, and I was shown this being riding on a flying snake, coming from the sun. And it had multiple arms, the being, and in its hand, it was pulling the coronal loop, the solar flare loop. It was pulling it, and it was like pulling it out and holding it in its hand like an ankh, right? And I realized that, oh my God, the coronal loop is the pasha, is the ankh of Egypt. In the pasha, it's that. So I looked it up, and those deities is Varuna. Varuna is the god of the ocean in the Vedas, but it's not the ocean on Earth. It's the ocean on Earth as well, but he's the god of the solar ocean. He's a solar deity, and it's technically the solar ocean. It's even described as it's literally written that way. He's the god of the solar worlds, the solar ocean, right? And Varuna, his main weapon is the Varuna Pasha, which is a golden noose right? A golden noose that he holds in one of his arms. And that golden noose is used as a lasso that comes from the sun to capture souls on earth and pull them into the celestial waters. It's literally described like that. It's called the Varuna Pasha or the Pasha. And it's also used as Ganesha as well. The elephant, he's elephant. Sometimes you'll see him, one of his arms, he's holding the loop. You know, he uses it also to remove the evil on earth. And this is what a coronal mass ejection does, right? It could destroy, and it could bring new information to the planet, bacteria, everything traveling within that solar wind. But what it is spiraling that loop, right? That Ankh loop, that coronal mass ejection loop. What forms that loop is twisting magnetic field lines, right? And then it forms a loop, right? And they twist like snakes, right? And you see that in all symbolism. And then it forms that loop. Inside that loop is spiraling electrons. And I was drawing those spiraling electrons inside the Ankh for years without realizing it. I had to get into plasma physics to realize how it all works, right? And I mean, it's incredible. Everybody, for how many decades has the Ankh been a symbol? And people have been trying to translate it. They show the Tesla's oscillator, how it makes that Ankh. Yeah, even if you see, what's it called? Those power generator line, when they have like a switch failure, you'll see an arc of electricity. They form arcs, electricity. That's how magnetism and electricity work. They form arcs, right? So on a wider scale, it's the solar. When you're talking about a solar deity, it's the coronal loop, and that's the context that they're using it in the religious and spiritual writings that we see of Akhenaten. When you have Akhenaten being handed down the Ankh from the arm of the sun, and his name is the intelligence of the rays of the sun. It's talking about the sentient plasma loops that's coming from the sun. This is the same thing as the cross, or even the Templar cross, it has a circle in the middle, that's the sun, and then the plasma columns coming out from all sides. Hey, Ra, the creator. I mean, this is groundbreaking information. And the Varuna Pasha is the coronal mass ejection loop. You'll see, this is in my book. Other people are going to come out with it after me. But this is where you first heard it. And it seems so simple once it's pointed out that people get pissed off. And when you see that I was shown this, the universe showed me this, and my body, it was like a kundalini moment, orgasmic. Like, you know, when you receive truth. Every time I talk about it, I get goosebumps, right? So, when you see these solar deities in the Vedic and ancient and India, right? And they have multiple arms. And in each arm, they're holding a specific thing. When they're portrayed that way,